between the stars in a three-dimensional space. So if I vibrate those harmonic codes into the ether, into the universe, the Sirius star system, or Orion's belt, knows that there's only one place that sees me with that exact ratio, and that's Earth. Very, very interesting. Now when we measure the slope in degrees on the Great Pyramid, we get 90 degrees, 89 degrees, 89 degrees, and 90 degrees, all off by 1 degree, just like my water crystal. That is not a mistake. This is clearly a harmonic code generator, just like my water crystal. The angle between here and here, and here and here, is off just by a little bit of degrees. So I generate all my numbers on the Great Pyramid, and it's really amazing. The four sides, looking down at the square. My ratio is 1 to 0.999, and the numbers vary depending on the side. So I entered that into my catalog, and I went, wait a minute, I know what that number is. We talked last year in the very beginning that Archimedes' student, Eratosthenes, was the first one of the Greeks, and no one preceding him, not even in ancient Egypt, could tell us the circumference of the Earth at the equator. And it was Eratosthenes who pointed, with his sextant and calculated 1 degree on the horizon and knew there were 360 degrees in a circle, and he measured that degree on the horizon equaling a certain distance on the Earth, and he multiplied it by 360, and he came up with the roughly 24,000 mile circumference of the Earth. Well, there was no way the Greeks could have known, and no one could know unless you had access to outer space, that when NASA came along with radio telemetry, they would measure the pole-to-pole circumference and the equator-to-equator circumference and find out there was a difference, or a differential. And guess what the number of the ratio of the differential of the planet Earth is? 1 to 0.996. And the pyramid is 0.999. 99% accurate, the same harmonic code is in the base of the pyramid and the Earth. And I believe that third decimal point would be corrected, because the Earth is a slight egg, at the position at Cairo on the egg. Every position on the egg in 3 or 4 decimal places later is going to have a different number. I believe it's 100% accurate to Cairo. Now, there's no way the builders of the pyramids could have known those numbers unless they had access to space, because even the Greeks could not figure it out, which means this is a mathematical case of proof that the pyramids were built by beings who had access to space. But what are the pyramids being used for? Well, this gets even more and more amazing. And this just happened very, very recently. I decided to take another electron-positron because I noticed the electron-positron was a slight ellipse. It wasn't a perfect circle, just like the Earth. And the electrons are what spin around all of the atoms with which our bodies are made of. The rocks, this stuff, the water. I wanted to know that same ratio, this way versus this way, on the atom and see if it's the same as the Earth. And guess what? 12 divided into 12.5 centimeters, which is the scale I blew it up to, is 1 to 0.99. When the bigger you blow it up, it's the same number. It's the same number, which means all of the harmonic codes in the atoms in your body are all vibrating with the same harmonic code as the planet itself. And that means a distant star system or a distant planet, even in our solar system, has its own harmonic code. This is where it starts to get really interesting. In quantum mechanics, oh yeah, this is very important to know this, but in quantum mechanics, any two systems that are entangled with each other, that share the same wave properties, and you separate them, if you separate the electron and the positron, and they're not equal wavelengths, but if you separate them, and you alter the wave functions of this electron, the positron, even 1,000 miles away, will, faster than light, copy it. Which proved that in quantum entanglement, everything communicates faster than the speed of light. And that is really amazing, because even though quantum physicists don't know how to do what I'm about to tell you, they do know that there is a set of wave functions, frequency, amplitude, and spin, and different functions that determine whether two systems are entangled. And no matter how far you separate those two little twins of each other, they communicate faster than light. But what if I could mathematically identify the harmonic code of a distant star system, and I knew its math, and I knew that the pyramid itself, made of stone, very, very interesting, because stone acts as an electronic capacitor, what would happen if I could produce entanglement at a distance? Because I would get Earth's harmonic codes, which I just demonstrated, all of our atoms in our body are vibrating at, and so is the planet. All has the same harmonic code, 1 to 0.99. And the base of the pyramid has the same harmonic code as Earth, but yet its ratio of pyramids has the same harmonic ratio as Orion's belt. Does that mean that the pyramids mathematically are in an entangled relationship with Orion's belt? Well, to me it does, because I know the secret of the power of stone. I know that stone acts as an electronic capacitor. It can hold a very, very weak amount of electricity. And the human body, for those of you who have been by my booth here, we take these pendants, these rose quartz and all kinds of different materials, and we expose them to my harmonic codes. We expose them to the 1.1111 and the NASA sound of the sun and Fibonacci as well. And they really hold the vibration really well. There's no energy in the stone, and yet, for people who have been by, before and after, we measure your voltage in your body, your millivolts before, and when you connect with the stone, your voltage goes way up in your body. And we also photograph the human aura before and after. How come there's energy flowing when I'm not using a battery? I'm just using harmonics. Well, we know the secret to zero-point energy is not about more fuel and more fire and more fossil fuels and nuclear power. We know it has to do with harmony, because we know Jamie Burduff's coil, the big donut-shaped coil, it was all about the math and the harmony of the way he wound his wire in the shape of a toroid. This is a toroid, a donut. And this is Jamie's windings, which he did for me on these pendants. And all just the harmonics of the windings, he put 2 amps in and he got 200 and something amps out of it. That's all he did. So that tells me that the way the universe works, its secret is that there are harmonies in the universe, almost like Pythagoras' music of the cosmos, the music of the spheres, the music of Mandana. That if you tune into those like a radio station, you receive what that harmonic code represents. You receive the influx of energy. So would the pyramids act, and another thing, I need to express this, as soon as we added the metal windings to the stone, and the metal windings on their own, I did millivolts tests, I got a 0. You cannot move electricity with the human electricity. Our body is running positive and negative ions through our nervous system. We are electrical beings. We have auras. We emit biophotons of energy. But I couldn't move a single amount of energy in the wire by itself. But when the wire touched the stone, I got a huge improvement in my pendants. Now, what used to exist on the top of these huge tons of limestone and pink quartz? Gold capstones. And something happens magically with stone when you interface a conductor grade, metal, copper, and of course gold is the best conductor on top of it. And what would happen if lightning bolts struck the pyramid? I mean, that was one of my first thoughts, is maybe the priest, waited in the king's chamber and waited until a lightning bolt struck one of the pyramids, and then it activated the resonating stone, and the stone became a capacitor, and the harmonic code set up, and that person's body teleported to Orion's belt. And then I thought, well, they must have used something. And how many people have seen that thing that looks like a light bulb? The Egyptians, they're holding the little filament going through it with there's a little round thing on the bottom. I think that was their power source that they brought in to the pyramids they used to activate the field of the stone. Because I use something, in my lab, I have 5 different generators that I built to activate my stones. And Mark had said to me, Mark Cuthbert, who's here working at the conference, had said to me just the other day at dinner, what if we brought one of your resonators to the Great Pyramid and we just tried it out? What would happen? So incredibly far out idea, incredible. The Sirius star system, 8.7 light years away, we know the Egyptians had a relationship with that. That we could actually do something like this. I mean, it can't be a coincidence that all of the math on the Great Pyramid has all of the wave functions of Earth in